Hello everyone, it's Oliver Harper here, and I'm joined with a new member to my YouTube team. His name is Tim Partridge. He's a professional filmmaker and a long-time friend of mine. This is a commentary to Ninja Turtles the movie from 1990. Now remember, it's an audio commentary, not a video, but you can sync the commentary with your own copy of Turtles by putting the timestamp to 0 and pressing play now. Now Tim, when you first saw this film, did you expect it to be quite a serious version of Ninja Turtles, or were you expecting something more like the cartoon?
Funnily enough, I actually walked in late the first time I saw it, so I actually missed everything up until the fight that happens later on in the sequence.
Oh really? Because this whole scene sets the tone, doesn't it, of the film?
It's interesting with the film because the tone that's set suggests a real world that's kind of... I guess it's relatively bigger in its reality than the TV show, the cartoon show ever was, which of course is what got us into Ninja Turtles.
Oh, definitely.
I mean, if you look just here now, I mean, there's one suggestion here that there's a Foot Clan member. But as a child, you recognise the design of Shredder from the TV show, and so everything seems a lot more, I guess, kind of tighter. Story-wise, there isn't Krang, there isn't the science fiction element. This is very gritty, and it's much more like the comic book.
Yes, definitely. I mean, for me as a kid, I was kind of expecting something like the cartoon, and I was a little bit disappointed Krang and Bebop and Rocksteady weren't in it. But the way how this story unfolds and how the Turtles are introduced in this particular world, you couldn't have those characters. It wouldn't seem, I don't know, Krang from another dimension. This film tries to play it so realistic.
Well, they expand on that, I guess, in the sequel with Raja and Tucker, who more or less seem like substitutes for Bebop and Rocksteady. Whereas here, it seems, just for an hour and a half, they're more than happy to establish Shredder and the Foot Clan. That is enough, and they go into much more of a reality of it. I mean, the theme of the film seems to be that everybody needs a family. Something around that seems to be. I mean, it's quite blatant with the character of Danny, with the Turtles having their Master Shredder, who's their father figure, removed from them.
Yeah, it's a very good point.
And also, you have Shredder initially lusting over Urokusaki's partner. And Splinter saying that he was part of a family at one point. I think that to explore such kind of a realistic, close to home theme for everybody, for any kid growing up, they don't need to cram it full of different characters, and I think it's quite bold because of that. This obviously got a cheer when you're a child. You see the PVC yellow coat, and you recognise.
I was a little disappointed she didn't have the entire outfit, but it kind of, I don't think people would be wearing an entire yellow outfit being a news reporter.
Well, you respect the fact that they've made the acknowledgement.
Yeah,
and you get it, and it
as a kid,
it.
know, don't you?
And then she can wear whatever she likes. It's really clever. It's very clever filmmaking. She's already hit on the iconography and sold it. This is wonderful. This initial fight scene.
It's one of the best ways to introduce the Turtles, because to an audience member, you're given little hints of what's going on. To Raphael's sigh, you hear the Turtles.
I just remember in 1990 watching it when this sigh goes up. Every kid recognises the sigh, and it's a slightly slow mo shot. Now you get onto this pitch black sequence, and every child's recognising, Michelangelo, that's Raphael, that's, you recognise all the moves. Of course, it's nonsense, it's just suggestion, but it's so brilliantly executed, really wonderfully choreographed use of sound and image, and no image in that case, but it's also prolonging the arrival of the Turtles.
And also it builds up the excitement as well, because once you see the Turtles, it is mind-blowing how good the quality is of the Jim Henson animatronics and the suits.
And here, we see Raphael for the first time, and everyone knows that's his sigh. There's the anticipation. Are you going to get it? You're going to take it? And obviously April takes it at this point, and it creates that. And
the first line by Raphael nails his character, because
it's also expletive, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. Yeah, he's got attitude straight away.
And this wonderful soundtrack, which this is kind of quite a delicate area, I think, because you've got, you know, a main theme, an iconic main theme that means so much to kids, and here they completely re-envision it, you know.
But it still sounds familiar.
Yeah, absolutely. But it's kind of, it's proud, it's iconic. I love all the drizzle. I mean, all this all sets everything up. You know, you don't need to have a technodrome and stuff when you know, you're putting so much detail into all these tiny little things. Like, I mean, this set.
And it's weird, the shadows, how it's cast on the walls. It's kind of
it's very theatrical, and it plays very much to the vocabulary that Steve Barron had created on The Storyteller, where he was using projections of shadows to tell stories.
Right.
And here we have it, the introduction of the four turtles.
It's just, once you see them, I mean, especially with, like, you know, do you think, like, for example, there's one's better than the other in terms of animatronics? Do you think they were all equally as good?
No, I think, especially to a kid, you're just blown away. Because we were anticipating this. We saw so many stills and press shots. Of course, it was pre-internet at that time.
All you saw was, like, clips on TV.
Everyone kind of is rooting for their person. I think the majority of us can relate as a child to Michelangelo, because he's the kid playing around. He's not doing the grown-up stuff. You know, I think tension within a child group kind of pushes towards a leader, and there's that with Leonardo and Raphael. I remember in the cartoon they'd set it up more or less as Leonardo was the leader. I'm not sure, and don't they say actually in the tie-in song in the TURTL Power?
Yeah, because they say Raphael, the leader of the group.
Yeah, and they're playing with that. I remember at the time,
I was annoyed by that as a kid, because it's like, well, no, it's clearly Leonardo, because in the film he still has a leadership.
I remember the cooler kids at school were assuring me that, you know, you watch the film, actually Raphael is the leader, Leonardo's all for show, and I thought that was kind of interesting. And here's a wonderful performance by
is it Kevin Clash?
Kevin Clash, yeah, just wonderful performance.
I mean, because the Turtles do look amazing, I think Splinter is literally one step up as well. The way he moves, it just looks probably more realistic.
I mean, I think they're all of, you know, an equally high standard. They're all incredible, and to a child, they're
real, you know,
completely. But I think his because he's playing the mentor character, and he sets a tone. I mean, the Turtles are more or less having fun, even though we've just seen Raphael have the dilemma with the Sai. This is a mentor, a sensei figure. Yeah,
but still a strong father figure.
And it's amazing in terms of the actual direction by Steve Barron, which is so sophisticated.
He's a very, very much underrated director, isn't he?
Well, he's just walking a tonal tightrope, because he's setting up this very serious, very gritty world with, you know, dank sewers and shadows and real thugs, and shooting in real parts of New York, at least in the, you know, in the establishing sequences, and creating that ambience, you know, in the studio stuff too, which they shot in Wilmington. You know, it's a real. It still
keeps that visual style, doesn't it?
Yeah, but it's creating something that is, I guess, pushing more for a grown-up kind of, more adult and somewhat darker, I guess, interpretation of the universe. It's saying this is real, this is happening. But he's also doing things like having this song that appears now.
Yeah.
And he's having Michelangelo ordering the pizza at the same time and cutting away, and he's managing to incorporate the silliness too. And it's really
because he's still acknowledging they're teenagers.
But it feels like the same film. It doesn't seem like it's broken.
Oh no, the tone doesn't dip up and down. It's consistent.
And to do this in an adult, in a family film is very tough. I mean, now it would be much easier to put a lot more pop cultural references in it and wink at the camera, but it doesn't do that. It's actually believes in itself, and it has an earnestness to it, much like Superman the movie as well, which Steve Barron was.
Yeah, because he was clapperboard, wasn't he, or something?
He was he was camera assistant.
Do you think there was any possibility that he tried to maintain that sort of tone like Superman, keeping things serious?
Even in the even in the photography is kind of slightly Supermanish with a slight diffusion.
Yeah,
and filming in real, as many real locations as possible. But he was a very, highly regarded, well-established prolific music video director, and this was at that point too where you were having people from commercials for the first time. I mean, like Ridley Scott and Adrian Lyne were coming from commercials, and then you had people like Russell Mulcahy with Highlander.
Had Fincher as well.
Sort of a couple of years on with Alien 3, but that was sort of an relatively untested ground. I mean, these people have been making films for a decade. Steve Barron, of course, as well, had made Electric Dreams before this too.
He did,
and had established himself very much as a kind of a foremost narrative film.
Well, he's still regarded as director of one of the best music videos ever made, which was a-ha's Take on Me.
So many. I mean, Billie Jean, Money for Nothing as well.
That guy there is the guy who plays Michelangelo in the suit. So each actor throughout the film gets a cameo.
And there's the domino tie-in, which I remember you used to have on the Playmates toys. There you had the tokens for dominoes. This is really well staged stuff as well. Superman's excellent at executing and choreographing physical comedy. And I think inherently with the Turtles being standing reptiles, living, breathing reptiles who party animals, there's an element of comedy and camp to that.
Yeah, because you couldn't play it completely straight throughout, because you're still filming a film about Ninja Turtles.
But it's playing to the truth.
Yeah.
I mean, even here, the reference to critters, Raphael's leaving the cinema and he says, where do they come up with this stuff? He's putting down something that's adult entertainment.
That looks like there's a similar shot to one in Ghostbusters where Marshmallow Man walks down the corner.
This is great. This whole sequence is wonderful.
See, when I was a kid, they'd only show a number of clips on TV. One beginning where the Turtles meet, they go back home and talk to Splinter, and there's a scene with Casey Jones coming up, and these ones I always saw quite a lot repeated on TV. But I don't think Casey Jones was from the comics. Someone may correct me on that, but
I couldn't tell you.
Yeah, he's a quite interesting character. I mean, it's a shame he didn't return for the sequel, but he came back in number 3. Sorry.
Brilliant, Elias Koteas as well. He's wonderful in this. He looks so much younger than he actually was, I think.
I mean, he's in his 50s now. He's had a bit of a career resurgence, hasn't he, the last number of years? He's in a lot of big profile films.
When he's in the Terrence Malick film, the Thin Red Line.
Thin Red Line, yeah.
Yeah, he looks significantly older, and it's only a few years away. But he gives a wonderful performance. It's a great sort of academic performance, but he also has a physical presence as well, relative.
Because he's doing what they're doing, but he's doing it far more aggressively,
And he's also a human. He's exposed. And,
but it's also quite funny in a way because he's not entirely spooked out by Raphael.
This is wonderful. This music cue, this little Calliope thing. I love it. It's playful. It's very. I mean, this is kind of playing with the slow pushing as well. It's almost like Amblin Spielberg kind of grammar, being used.
It was quite an interesting choice having John Duprez. I mean, he did obviously Fish Called Wonder, and works a lot with the Monty Python team. But do you think the main reason behind that? I mean, I have no idea why he got attached to Ninja Turtles.
Fish Called Wonder was a huge hit.
Yeah.
And who wouldn't want that composer, I guess. It's interesting because sometimes, right now, it's being playful. Often it's a lot more kind of urban and channeling the kind of Far Eastern sound that you hear in something like Black Rain.
Yeah.
And with the, he's got the rock sting here as well. This is wonderful. So well directed, this part. Well acted. Staged.
No, doesn't like being called a freak.
I love this
What a reaction from the taxi driver.
But also when you cut to that massive wide and you can hear him screaming down.
That guy's Raphael in the back. And he does the voice as well. And he's in the suit. How weird is that? He's the only actor to do it.
But coming up here, you see this this shot here with him screaming down over the top. I remember that getting a huge laugh at the cinema. And
this was the first film I ever saw at the cinema with my dad. My dad hated it. I absolutely adored it.
Here we go again. It's going back into the more subtle stuff now.
I think this scene is absolutely beautifully composed and directed, and the music really sells it. It's really quite upsetting to a certain degree. I mean,
and look at the mood that's set as well too. Look, it's all in shadow. You've got the ambient music playing.
And the way, and I think Splinter spends his most time with Raphael trying to, channel his anger and try and suppress it, isn't he?
And it's quite visual storytelling too. The camera is doing as much work as the actors. He's
learnt a lot, hasn't he, from the storyteller?
Well, he always was visually sophisticated because of music videos, I guess, because they're essentially silent movies. But the camera does so much. I mean, here it's just one shot kind of going in between. You've covered a wide and 2 singles, and it's a delicate moment. He gets very close to the actors as well, with quite wide lenses. And here we're talking this whole thing about patriarch and family.
Yeah. This is where that theme of family really kicks in.
Well, and the hint too of Splinter not being there at some point, leaving.
Early on because I won't be around.
And the assignment of who becomes the father figure,
sure,
who becomes the leader. And this is where we're introduced to Charles, who's the boss of April, who of course has his own son in a dysfunctional relationship called Danny, which again plays to the theme. I love the little details like the Sid Vicious t-shirt that he wears.
Well, I think the chap who played Danny didn't do much acting after this. I think he's actually an artist, I believe. A comic book artist.
Right. But there's...
But I don't think her boss is the same boss from the cartoon. I think the different names are all different, aren't they, I think?
Probably.
Yeah.
It's funny, isn't it? Because you kind of see it growing up, the cartoon show as canon. And
the film comes along, it changes a lot of the rules.
But it's actually reverting back, I think,
it reverts back to the tone of the original books or comics, as it were.
Yeah.
Because in the comics, they all had the similar. They didn't have colour coordinated head banners, did they? They were all sort of red, weren't they?
I'm not sure. This is wonderfully done. I love this. These are wonderful performances. I love the fact he's sweating for the police chief is sweating.
He returned for number 2 as well, didn't he?
Yeah.
It's strange why she didn't return for number 2. I think maybe probably
she's got
scheduling conflicts. Maybe
she's got a wonderful presence, hasn't she, Judith?
Yeah.
I like the fact she's not a star as well.
Well, she's done tons of TV now. She's quite popular actress on TV.
But I like the fact that it was somebody who you
didn't
think it was so and so playing.
Yeah, because as a kid you see that and go, that's April.
Yeah,
you know what I mean.
This is great too. This tonal setup with Shredder, it's so dark in silhouette. Completely dark. Yeah. Little. But
as a kid will know instantly who that is.
Absolutely.
I love that funny optical. Always makes you laugh.
Yeah, it's real.
Silencer. What a great voice.
It's like Dr. Claw in Inspector Gadget.
Isn't it? But in the UK, where me and Tim live, we didn't have all the nunchuck scenes. Everything got cut out, and they used, I think, B-roll footage or the second camera footage for sort of get different angles to hide a lot of the nunchucks. I think they were probably self-aware at the time that things would be cut. Things were they knew the BBFC were quite strict on weapons like that.
This is a great scene. In which April's winding up the police chief.
I do my job.
I love her kind of sassiness. I love the attitude.
Well, she's just like Lois Lane, isn't she? I think she's got that spunky attitude and very sort of
3 steps ahead of everyone.
Yeah,
and sometimes herself. She's a great. I mean, that's a difficult thing because remember these are human performers who are having to kind of carry the weight of the film in many respects because they're the people who we're projecting onto as humans.
Yeah.
We can relate somewhat to the turtles and their mischief and their adventures.
But also she's acting with these actors in suits and their voices can probably barely be audible and they probably be someone's doing the voice off camera.
This receives a slap across the face.
Yeah. Nice message.
But this, again, it shifts tone. It goes, but it does it so well. Shift tone. We're in a dangerous part of the film now. It's playing with violence.
Looking at this scene now, it reminds me of The Warriors.
Yeah, well, the whole film kind of
looks similar. It's got a similar look as well, sort of gritty look to it.
Brotherhood of the Foot Soldier kind of thing. Kind of a rundown part of a big city.
I like the way Steve Bannon sort of introduced that the Turtles are really quick, that sort of ninja ability, you know what I mean, where the train will go past, boom, he's gone, and he's already halfway down the track.
I really like the use of Steadicam as well. I think it's very cleverly interwoven into it. It's almost like Superman, isn't it?
I try to think, was the sewer sections, that's all a set, isn't it, they've built?
Yeah,
to replicate.
And that was built in Wilmington, North Carolina, I believe.
I like the way this plays out, because obviously the foot soldier's there, but he slowly comes out of the shadows.
Yeah, there's a lot of clever visual storytelling that goes on. A lot of things shown visually. This is so good. This is such a good sequence because it feels so spontaneous. I love that kind of shriek that April O'Neil gives when she wakes up.
I think it's a little dream. But then it's a good way for them to introduce the backstory of the Turtles. I mean, it's told in a very sort of comedic way, isn't it?
But it looks like the first time she's done. Of course, it's shot from different angles with different coverage of each character. I mean, there's 5 animatronic characters, and then there's Judith Hoag in the middle of it. But here, when she wakes up, it feels so spontaneous. It looks like it's been done there and then, which of course it probably wasn't. This here when she screams, and she contains it, and it's quite heightened, but it's really true. You really feel the truth of it.
Donatello's got a pillow in the background. He's like squeezing.
It's such a hard kind of tone to get, and to put that weight onto onto a human lead. It's quite a lot of responsibility, and it's often
But I was saying earlier, it's difficult for them to interact with these actors because the guys in suits, trying to get responses from them, see how they're acting to it.
And in the case of Splinter, it would probably be
a couple of dudes with a hand on
a torso, you know. She's so good. She makes a reference to Harrison Ford, doesn't she?
Yeah. Because why can't you dream of Harrison Ford?
I remember when I saw this with my mother, I could see that she was clearly seeing the film through April O'Neil as she was watching it. So it's one for the adults too. It adds a sort of an extra layer. This is good too. This harkens to The Storyteller, the Jim Henson show that was produced by Duncan Kenworthy and was directed by Steve Barron.
Was it 88 he did that?
It was about 87, 88, yeah. But he kind of set the tone with these transitional pieces. Like here, I mean, now it's
got this sort of grainy look to it as well. So it sort of looks like old footage,
And also the puppetry too. It's sort of slightly intentionally kind of a bit more jittery. And I love these too. These breaking of the fourth wall. We got them looking at the camera. And I love the way you notice with Splinter, the lighting had dimmed down onto him to give this talk about their origin, which is significantly different to the one in the cartoon, because as we know in the cartoon, Splinter was a human who turned into a rat.
This seemed more believable in a way, because I don't know, turning him into a rat because he's holding it, like in a cartoon, he gets the ooze on him.
It's got a huge laugh because when we saw it originally.
Were you disappointed, a little bit confused that Donatello wasn't the brains of the team?
I think there was so much going on. There was so much.
Yeah. So I kind of felt the other three had, you knew who they were individually from the cartoon, but Donatello was so different. He kind of come across as a bit more of a stoner sort of character. But
you notice here, like it cuts back now. The lighting changes happened. You notice that it was just a hard cut.
Sure.
It went from this dimmed down thing back to reality. So clever, and it's so seamless. And you rarely see transitions done like that today.
Especially not for things like
this is great. This reaction shot,
flashbacks to their backstory.
I love that reaction shot there when he said, "No, I'm afraid not," and it cuts to a wide shot. Traditionally, you'd go into a close up of the person and get.
Well, coming up now is a different shot because when they come out of the sewer. And she goes, do you want to go for a pizza? And Michelangelo jumps up really quickly and goes, go for it! But in the UK one, it's shot you're looking at him, but in this one it's taken from different angle.
Oh, really?
Because he's hiding his nunchucks in the UK one. So this one you can see his nunchucks as he's standing there.
I love it. He's slightly under cranked as he comes up, isn't he? Slightly sped up, and that's an extra comedic effect.
It usually cuts a close up there, but it's the nunchuck. It's weird.
I like how there's a reaction shot here, isn't there, where it cuts to the inside. It cuts from...
Oh, cut straight to inside her kitchen.
No, listen. What do you like in your pizza? And then he says, Michelangelo says flies and things. And then it cuts to a close-up of April. And I remember when I first saw it, I thought they were still going to be on the street, but it pulls back and it reveals that a passing of time has happened.
Yeah.
Whereby they're sat and they've eaten the pizza. This feels so spontaneous. It feels so real and improvised. And of course it probably isn't.
The lighting outside seems like it's set in the day. It's quite strange.
I just think it's the angle. Of course, here the favouritism within the family too, and the contention, and they kind of all laugh it off, even though she's hit on a deep nerve because the topic of conversation, especially with Raphael, has just been about leading the pack if he was ever to go.
It's good that they're not showing the turtles drinking any alcohol. They've got like little cartons of juice.
I wonder if also she acts as a kind of semi-maternal figure as well, because
she does really. Yeah, I mean, there's no sort of. It'd be bizarre to include some sort of sexual tension. It'd be a bit peculiar.
But in the original version of the script, was there not hints at more of a relationship between Raphael and April? Or am I confused?
I've never read that. You may have touched on something there. I think that's probably with the introduction of Casey Jones. It really gives her some sort of love interest.
So this is quite.
This is really moving. This scene. This is quite. I was like the music as well really sells it.
You look at the destruction; it really suggests to you that they've thrown him around the room. Created a lot of damage on an elderly sensei.
Yeah.
And this great steady cam shot into the mouth, and then out through this gutter, which is just this set here with the gutter.
God damn!
But this we'd just seen this being used as a as an arena for comedy with the pizza sequence, and now it's being used as something that's much darker. And this is where Danny is getting his
comeuppance, as it were.
Yeah. It's a wonderfully cast movie, isn't it?
It's quite a small cast, isn't it? There isn't,
Well, when you get past the 5 animatronic characters who have 5 separate voice actors,
then you would feel there's too many people in it. I always forget about this shot of the city.
Central Park view.
Yeah. I always just remember just cutting straight to April's house.
Well, it's very clever when you think that they probably shot for a few, probably for a week or I'm imagining.
Oh yeah, they
probably shot more.
Well, this includes establishing shots, don't they?
Of the actual New York, and the rest of it, for many months would have been for as long as would have been in Wilmington, which is a totally separate state. Well, we've got this sleight of hand here, haven't we, where Danny comes around and he's...
Well, yeah, he clocks onto the turtles hiding, doesn't he? And it's quite cleverly done. Also, he continues with the idea that turtles are really fast with their ninja skills.
It sets up a very good relationship too, I guess, with Charles and April. There's an interesting dynamic. But it's funny how they become an audio background, really, for what is essentially, again, more visual storytelling, with Danny looking around the room and seeing traces of the turtles.
Yeah.
And April seeing them as well.
See, what I like about this, what the Transformer films have done wrong, is where the turtles are not secondary characters in their own film. They're still get enough screen time as the human characters.
Yeah. But this whole scene as well, it's like... It's essentially you're getting so much exposition about. Basically, the bottom line is April don't report any more about this Foot Clan thing because it's cheesing off the police guy. But what is visually showing you is her trying to disguise the turtles from Charles and Danny,
Oh yeah.
So it's doing two things at once. It's tight. And here we've got the rejection of the family here when Danny leaves the car, leaves Charles, his dad, behind, runs off.
Straight back to the hideout with all the kids playing the arcade games and
this false idea of
smoking cigars.
And the false idea of fatherhood as well. And of course MC Hammer on the soundtrack, who was huge
I
in 1990.
adored this soundtrack as a kid. I mean, the first single I ever bought was Turtle Power on cassette tape, which came with like the Splinter's tail, I think, on the side B.
It's quite unnerving as well when you see this as a child, because you see there being, all these kids in this big warehouse are being indulged in stolen goods. I think there's cigarettes, isn't there? Is there?
Yeah, I think there's cigarettes, and the one kid had a cigar a minute ago.
And they're doing skateboarding and video arcade, and you think, wow, but you're thinking to yourself, almost like in Pinocchio, with the kids at the theme park, you're thinking there's going to be a consequence from this, and later, of course, you see the children are abused, or the young adults are abused and used by the. Oh yeah, here we are with the
cameo
smoking.
We've got a cameo guy.
Oh, is that Sam Rockwell?
Yeah, Sam Rockwell. Yeah,
who's gone on to more great things and worked with the Henson creatures on the Hitchhikers film as well.
He did,
yeah. There's a coincidence. And there's this character here.
I think it's Tetsu, isn't it? Or something, Tetsu?
Can't
remember his name.
He's very threatening, but a kind of foreman, isn't he, for Shredder?
The strange thing is, he's got a very short temper. Takes his anger out on the trained foot soldiers later on, but he kind of feels bad afterwards. You can tell he feels like, I shouldn't have done that, but
not really. You almost feel like he's
torn between it. Yeah.
Well, he's having to tolerate a great deal, and he teaches a great lesson, which is in only defence, which is for the means of the foot, not for the child himself. Where he says, "Never lower your eyes to an enemy."
Yeah.
But it's selfish because it's something that will benefit the foot with him having that knowledge.
Yeah,
it won't help.
It
won't help the child, who's obviously been rejected from his own family.
I think he may have choreographed some of the fight scenes in this.
Okay, this is wonderful too, isn't it? This almost has a Mortal Kombat kind of foreshadowed feel with the symbols. And,
yeah.
I mean, obviously these are traditional things, but more in the cinematic staging. In a.
But here comes one of the greatest introductions of a villain.
This is all in one shot as well. Shadows again.
This is all from his music video stuff, isn't it? Really, that's sort of the ideas all stem from something else. I think
it's so clearly done, and again, this is iconography as a child.
Like the stops there. It's great how he's lit that. Then poof.
Then it becomes this giant sort of court battle room. But look at it, it's just one camera move. It's just, it's going on for about 30 seconds.
It's sort of stuff you see like Russell McKay stuff.
And
like,
Steve Barron.
Yeah, Steve Barron. Yeah, I mean, it's typical music videos, compositions.
I love the really hot top lighting on
this
thing that blitz. But also it's the iconography of that mask. And I remember as kids you'd think you've been waiting for the Shredder, the anticipation's building up, and you finally see him. Yeah. And you've got this big moment. Again, it's completely visual. There's no audio. Nobody's speaking, no dialogue. It's just music and it's visual setting it up, and every kid knows who that is.
But the great thing about the film, and
this part here, when
Shredder is pure evil. No, he's not like played for laughs at all.
No,
he's absolutely threatening character.
But he's also set up too as this surrogate father children for all these rejected children who've decided to take refuge, in this island warehouse. This false investment of family, and again, building up the idea, playing on the theme of everybody needing a family.
He's so good at manipulation. Shredder is.
Yeah, but he also, remember too, he lusted for Rokusaki's love.
Yeah.
And didn't get her, and he's kind of built up.
He's turned that into revenge, essentially.
But that's something that he never really got over, and he was bitten by the rat, who resented it because. So it's all built on these false ideas, this false idea of family. Just things like the shoulder pads are so, with the spikes, are so iconic because everyone had the action figures at the time as well, and we all knew each other. When you see things like this, as a kid, you're just blown away because you think.
Were you surprised they had him in a red outfit instead of the more sort of grey with a sort of hint of blue in it? In traditional.
I honestly don't think I cared. No. I think it's just
because in number 2 he has the blue, doesn't he?
You kind of. Yeah. you accept,
I think it looks better on camera with the red. I think really.
And this is too. You're seeing Splinter humiliated, and
you're seeing it in the whole body. So not sitting down. You can get senses the size of him.
Yeah, but just the fact that he's the absolute. They're both each other's nemesis traditionally in the cartoons.
I'm surprised he hasn't killed him.
And 20 minutes. How long? 20 minutes into the film, we're seeing that they're
about 35.
But we're seeing that they're already together. This is great too, where Danny's got his hand raised.
It's him. He calls.
And I love the way he licks at his lips, and we see that his mouth is about to open, but we don't.
Yeah, we don't get the information.
One of the editors on this film, I believe, was Sally Menck, who had edited a lot of Quentin Tarantino's films, who died a couple of years ago.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. This had 3 editors, this film.
Yeah, one of them was, there's a piece of trivia. And actually, here in this newscasting scene, isn't this lady's name June or May or something? I remember at the time...
She may refer to her in a second by her name. I love this moment there because as soon as she's spoke about the chief inspector, she's already phoned.
Yeah.
I thought we had a
And again, you're getting all the information about his regret, shaking his head in the reflection.
Sure.
Some citizens of New York actually came to my rescue. I sent everyone in the big house.
Oh, and this is fun too, the building up of the relationships between them.
Definitely, yeah.
I mean, she is basically a maternal figure here, isn't she? She's looking after them.
That was the best way to play it.
In her nest, it becomes kind of her nest. I mean, that's the other thing. You've got that shift away from the base of operation, which is the sewer, to April O'Neil's apartment, which is above this.
Also gives their progression. They can feel more open because they're actually outside of the sewers. You know what I mean?
And playing on the theme too. She has doesn't she? She lives above a antique store.
Yep.
And is that owned by her? Is that?
Well, her father collected all those stuff.
Yeah, exactly. But again,
theme
family.
And
then they eventually go out from New York to the farmhouse, which again was owned by her family. So and she makes her own separate family with Casey Jones.
Sure.
At the end as well.
And he's essentially her kids.
And she sees him she refers to him as a boy at one point, doesn't she? A teenager or something.
What, Casey Jones?
Yeah.
Yeah. At one point, sort of taking the piss out of him.
So she almost becomes. I guess like a lot of relationships, she's becoming a mother to him as well.
Because she calls him like a 12-year-old because all men are slightly immature sometimes. But it's funny because the Turtles, Donatello and Michelangelo, just spend most of the time just eating.
Yeah.
And I think because they chose to have Donatello to be more like Michelangelo, because it gives them two something to do.
Yeah, well, it's basically a competition, isn't it, for leadership?
Yeah. Well, Donatello and Michelangelo are not fussed at all about being a leader. It's just between Raphael and Leonardo.
And they are more of... They've always traditionally been more of comic relief, I guess, in the cartoon. I'm not sure about how in the comic book, but this is it's about leadership in the family, and he says, "Good, we don't need you," and now Raphael's
This is a great shot, isn't it? Like that.
I mean, they really made the most of all the stuff that was
shot. This is mental because, in the background, you see, he's going to get completely fucked
again.
Now because
but there's no exposition, no dialogue telling anything. It's all visual storytelling.
Visually, yeah.
It's very underrated. And of course, here we've got Turtles watching a cartoon turtle on TV and criticising him.
Walking too slow.
But it's playing to the truth of that situation if there were real turtles watching television. This is great intercutting here, where everything's a home life with April.
And cutting straight to Raphael getting beaten up,
And also, they're taking him for granted too.
Who, Raphael?
Very much so, and it's only there's so much they have to pay for after this sequence.
Oh, sure.
I mean, April is out of home.
It's also funny in a way because Raphael really needs them at this point. But later on, when Raphael's taken out, they go, "We really need Raphael. We can really count on Raphael right now."
Yeah,
because he works so well as a team and as a family.
But that's it. Again. By the end of it, they've. I guess that's it. By the end of it, they've become a team. Because at the end of the film,
I suppose it takes them a little bit of a while to sort of fully appreciate that they work best as a team.
But the whole situation of the whole dilemma of the film, and the the antagonist,
This is what-
the antagonist being Shredder, is overthrown by Splinter
Yeah.
by the end of it. So they all learn that they've got to
Do
be
you
a
think
team.
this is all a set piece, isn't it? It's not actually. Yeah, I think it's all a set piece, isn't it?
Sorry, it's all done on.
Yeah, soundstage that is.
I'm not sure.
Yeah.
No idea.
The lighting looks so good. It actually looked like it was set outside. You know?
But some of it, I mean, even that clear exterior stuff we saw before looks so picturesque. That, you know, even that
Oh, sure.
could be, could kind of be intercut with that.
I love this bit because he's going to literally
Symbols.
pick up right behind
They're
him.
setting it up, aren't they, for the fight later?
Oh, yeah. Get the symbols on him. Definitely Leonardo. Ah!
I love the little subtle camera pull back there as well on April. Just all these little bits of visual storytelling.
This bit was quite. This scene was on TV a lot actually as well. Coming up, he gets thrown through the window. But when he hits the ground, you can see Leonardo touch him. And he's really soft, like foam. Was it like a?
No, nobody notices. Nobody.
I always noticed as a kid. It's
Well-
always like, why is he so squishy?
If you watch this for 200 times in a row,
Well, as a kid I did.
this is great. It's been non-stop music, by the way, as well. Just integrated into the
Oh, for sure.
sequence. It's like a wall-to-wall music piece, and now it goes quiet for the first time.
I know. But as a kid, we never saw this bit coming up. The nunchuck, standoff, as it were.
It's great little musical nods to the. It's quite, again, it's balancing comedy and drama really well.
Oh yeah, definitely.
It's that tonal tightrope it's wonderfully walked.
I mean, the way because this room is so small.
Yeah.
They cover it really well, the whole fight scene, but you can get a great sense that they're all trapped in.
I think because you've seen all of these very soft domestic situations previously, in this apartment, and now you're anticipating it being wrecked because it's all in sort of bright daylight.
Yeah.
And you're sitting there kind of thinking, oh god, the worst thing that could happen would be your house being destroyed by several dozen ninjas coming through the window.
But the turtles are still kind of struggling at the moment because they're trying to take them all out as quickly as possible. But they really need Raphael, don't they, to sort of
But there's a
take them all on. But it's still, and also it's great because they're still throwing jokes in.
And they probably don't want to destroy April O'Neil's house.
No.
Either. I mean, that's kind of that's kind of the tension that's cleverly sort of subliminally built up because remember, this has been a place where they've come to after the sewers has become not an option because the foot have been there. So this has been, like a refuge place that they managed to come to.
Yeah.
And be safe in, and now it's being destroyed. There's, obviously we know because we've seen this before that later on they end up going to the farm. But at this point you think, well, where else are they going to go? And plus it's April O'Neil's everything she owns, under one roof is
This
being
bit's
destroyed.
wicked though, when they all just pile through and just go straight for the ground. I completely forgot it's Corey Feldman doing the voice, Donatello.
But it's interesting too because here, before and including Casey Jones does his piece during this fight, it's all kind of been played not for comedy. I mean, it's still exciting, but it's still quite in that heightened cartoon world. And at this point too, when the Shredder's foreman turns up, I mean, it's still slightly comedic, and then we've got Casey Jones' turn, but then after that it becomes much more dramatic when when fire gets involved and you see the shop start to get burnt down. The tone shifts somewhat too, and it becomes much darker.
Oh, definitely.
And you've got that great close-up.
Once everything starts catching on fire, the tone just shifts.
And you've got that great close-up of April O'Neil looking out of the window, watching it, everything
just burn, her whole
she
life
owns,
burned.
burning behind her. And there we go with the symbols that were set up earlier being thrown down. And I love April's devotion to Ralph.
Stuck with him.
The way they've set him up. They've set a relationship early on, and she's there kind of defending. Of course, now we've got Casey Jones coming in.
If I was a kid, if I was a big fan of Raphael, I'd be like, no, they're taking Raphael out. No,
But it's only for a moment.
Oh, of course. But kids always get a little bit,
There's a
frustrated
reference
as a kid
to the
by silly things like that.
the Canadian hockey player Wayne Gretzky on steroids. which I saw this in Canada for the first time,
And everyone got a
that
massive
still
laugh.
was. I'd seen that after months after it had been out, and that was still getting a big laugh because it meant something. But even the music here now, it becomes darker. You know, before
Yeah. As soon as it catches fire.
it had been sort of a bit more symphonic and lighter before, and now it's become this much kind of darker, urban tinged
Oh, sure.
music, and it's too, and it comes in just with the fire. Things have actually gotten serious, even though we've seen all of this destruction before. It's raised the bar, I guess, and also too because I guess you can rectify things like broken furniture and whatever, and to some degree broken floorboards. But now it's kind of a no going back. Everything's going to go down, and also they're having to retreat because there's too many of them. The opposition. This is a great gag with the
The answer phone clocks him on the head, doesn't it?
This
answer
will,
phone's got a good speaker. Clearly hear that.
sorry, this will come as a blow, and then it falls down and hits the foot. So then. It's wonderfully
It's good they added little
choreographed.
bruises to the turtles. You see red marks on their bodies.
Right. Ninja vanish.
Ninja varnish.
And look at this. This is great, isn't it? Because the
it's like
the van that
it's
they're
going to be the
driving-
turtle van at
yeah.
one point.
Well, you're thinking as a kid watching it because it's kind of implied that it's a Volkswagen. Is it a Volkswagen?
It's
It
kind of built
looks
like that, yeah.
It looks like the
Yeah.
Volkswagen. There's a great shot of the reaction shot of everything. April O'Neil nose burning down.
And then you've got a shot of Danny just like he's regret.
Such effective use of slow motion as well. So good. Yeah, and everything. It is all because of Danny in a big close up. And this is wonderful
music
too.
here, fucking hell.
Again,
beautiful.
tonal tightrope. I mean, you've got, you've got
And the camera's just following him.
yeah, but you've got a very real Japanese sensei
Yeah.
in this threatening, metal armor coming and hitting a life-size rat, and somehow it's dramatic and it's
Oh, yeah.
serious, and you're totally with them.
Because as an audience member, you don't see it as ridiculous at all, or sort
No.
of campy or comic booky.
And then you get the
seems
you
so
get-
realistic.
You get the shame here too of the foreman knowing that he let that other guy. No, he got the other. The turtle got away.
Yeah, the sensei of the Foot
The
Clan.
shame, which is kind of a big thing, which isn't really about family.
It's all about honour, isn't it, for
yeah.
Japanese? So that's
But it's not within family either. It's
No,
it's
no,
within
no,
a gang.
it's-
And now here we see
take his anger out.
all
on
of the
these men.
young men and children being abused. All of his tension being released on them, and you realise what a sham this actually is. This is the
Yeah,
payback.
yeah.
This is the bit where the children become donkeys in Pinocchio. Really.
Yeah, well, they also see that they're not respected by who they think they're the sort of father figures.
Yeah,
It's where it begins to crumble, really, for the Foot Clan.
and it's funny within them, with the brothers within. I mean, it's very real. The brotherhood within them. I mean, immediately they ran over to make sure that the guy was okay.
Yeah,
So it means something to the. They mean
it means something to them, but
Yeah.
not to
Each. Yeah, they mean something as brothers.
the
but
foreman.
They're just meat for the foot. And this is a very nice little touching scene. It's essentially just again kind of big dialogue sequence, but it's so dramatically done and wonderfully paced.
And it's not all covered, everything in close-ups. It's all
Everything's been thought about.
Yeah.
Everything.
You've always got a great sense in this film of the location and geography, what's going on. You're not confused when the fight scenes, what's happening.
No.
It's all told visually very well.
But you still get these very intimate close-ups where the faces are telling so much about what's going on.
See, the previous shot of Splinter was a medium shot. Now it's come to a close-up. Just for those more
But all
intimate
those-
moments, it goes. Now it begins to zoom in.
Well, it's
So-
pushing in, isn't it? It's
Yeah, pushing in.
physically-
Sorry, yeah.
There's a lot of dynamic camera movement, but it's not just about that. It's the idea that Danny is his doubt isn't there's a giant rat talking to me. His doubt is my family, my dad doesn't care about me. That's his. He knows the doubt is whether
And he's not at all shocked that he's talking to a giant rat.
We've seen it.
Yeah.
It's done. And this is great. This seemed to have nothing to do with the cartoon. I remember thinking as a kid, they go to a farm, and I remember seeing the bubblegum trading cards initially and thinking,
I had those, yeah.
They go to a farm, kind of thing,
Yeah. But I think that's kind of a done thing with films. I always, as a kid, kind of, if there's something as like an adaptation of a cartoon or essentially a comic book, always knew back in my mind it was going to be different. You know, but even though you kind of want it to be like the cartoon, you sort of come to accept it anyway.
And it works with the theme of the film, and we see this whole sequence, by the way, through the eyes of April, because
she's like
does that
narrating,
transitional bit,
she's drawing pictures of them, isn't she?
Which is great because she's usually quite.
It shows the other side of her as well.
She's prodding and investigative a lot of the time, and here she is being very introspective and looking in to talents we didn't know about with the drawing and observing things from afar, and you kind of get a sense, the root of her journalistic journey as well.
Yeah.
This is great.
It's typical. It's like a typical husband and wife arguing.
Yeah,
and they're the kids, observing.
And it's a family that's set, kind of set up. They have incredible chemistry. Judith Hogan and Elias Koteas in this.
I love this moment here. Donatello's walking and he looks like he's trodden something. Oh.
Let's see here now. This is that transitional moment that we talk about.
And it's also great that Leonardo's showing no signs of being bitter about the argument, because he spends the entire time with Raphael.
He's just hoping that he recovers.
Yeah, because he feels bad for what he's lost his temper.
Well, much like earlier with Shredder's foreman, where he beat up the random foot soldier, and the foot soldiers jump in to make sure their brothers are okay. It's that idea of family. This is great.
I love their little chemistry as well.
Yeah. It's funny, as you say, if this had been in the cartoon,
that would
Donatello would be fixing this truck.
But they corrected that issue, didn't they, with number 2, because Donatello was the intelligent one to a certain degree. But number 3, he was like even more sort of messing around with computers and stuff. But he had Corey Feldman's voice again.
Well, they had
which didn't work.
They had ooze and computer programming was part of the story, wasn't it?
Yeah.
In the second one. This is it again. It's a very low tech film. Too.
Well, that's Donatello in number 2's kind of it still retains his comedic attitude, I think, really.
But it's a very low tech film too.
This one is, yeah.
Do we see a computer in the whole thing? Do we see?
Well, this one, no.
It's the TV station is about the height of
technology. You saw a computer in April's.
I mean, here
house,
this is rustic. This is totally.
It is, yeah.
And even the sewer, and even her place with the antique.
Yeah.
Store beneath it. It's everything is heavily sort of rustic and worn down and lived in and it's all kind of old time things. It's not about new. I think she has a TV, doesn't she? But it's a slightly older television.
Yeah. There's nothing high tech about it at all, as you're saying.
No, but it's all homely too. Everything is very kind of homely. I guess the only place where you do get some of that is the warehouse with the arcade machines and the skateboard.
Oh, sure. Do you think there may be a deleted scene because she's drawing each one of the turtles? She's not drawing Michelangelo, though.
It's interesting.
Yeah. But one thing we haven't mentioned is, because it's quite a low budget film, when it came out, it became the most successful independent film ever made. Which is crazy, man. Absolutely crazy.
Entirely deserved, I think.
Oh, yeah.
This is great, isn't it, with the Toots and Babe stuff?
Oh, sure. But he's trying to flirt with her. Then he goes, sits back on the chair,
humiliates himself.
Yeah, exactly.
That's great.
Because it was a joint venture, wasn't it, between New Line and Golden Harvest, wasn't it?
I'm not sure.
Because in the UK, it was distributed by Richard Branson's Virgin Video, whatever it was, label.
I remember seeing the Virgin logo on the big screen when I saw it.
Yeah,
I saw it about 10 times.
We did have that, yeah.
Yeah. But no, here you go. Here's your, here's a very earnest moment.
Because we're watching this on Blu-ray, and you can see the detail on the suits. This looks like proper skin. It's.
This is great here too. This is.
He wants some food.
It's very earnest and beautiful, and it's about brothers. Look at Raphael. Feels almost a bit embarrassed to be, but he's never seen Leo being so appreciative. He's just the last time he's seen him.
I think he really needed that to happen to Leo to show that. I think because he's just as stubborn as Raphael. I think.
But before this, he said, "Good, we don't need you." When he leaves.
Yeah.
In fact, actually, I was saying about pop cultural references before. Donatello and Michelangelo. I mean, you just mentioned at the Kodak moment. You know, they're just they're doing all these little.
Well, it does as a gag later on with turtle wax.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is great. Look at this stuff. It's so good. It kind of does look like a Golden Harvest martial arts movie, doesn't it?
See, that's actually Michelangelo.
Oh, I don't think anyone cares.
Your empire flourishes, Master Shredder. What more from the
Be stealing loads of VHS players and stuff. But coming up in a moment is the great scene where the turtles are all back together again, training for what we haven't seen before.
Again, more visual storytelling. One shot, back of heads. You hear the dialogue. And you're seeing what's going on. There's just that sense of dread and menace.
And it's great that Shredder's beginning to click.
Yeah.
You know, about his past. Oh, that music.
The training montage music.
I would just love to have the full score complete on CD.
Absolutely. I'd love to have all three films scores.
Even though, you know, number 3 is pretty bad, but the music, all 3 of them by John Duprez, is sublime.
Yeah.
This scene is far longer as well, because as a kid, all the stuff with Michelangelo trimmed out. You know, it's frustrating. I love those using as like the sword as like it's the typical knife to cut the
Well, it's the kind of thing you do in a relationship, isn't it? It's I forgot how tight fitting her clothes are in this. But she's got a kind of a bit of a sassy sort of tomboyishness too. You know, she was on the hammer earlier, and you know,
she's got she's like she's come from like a family of loads of brothers and just her, so she's like really sort of, you know, can stand up for herself.
You see her outside the police chief's place as well, kind of talking to one of the you know, the technicians who's wiring up, you know, just kind of like in shorthand, and she knows how to talk and speak.
Oh yeah, knows the lingo as it were. Yeah.
No, of course.
See, that wasn't the UK one either. That was cut out. So strange.
But this is great too. I mean, it's just flirting, you know, with this massage. Suggestive, you know, in a family film. Oh, this is really nice.
I used to have a poster of that with Leonardo meditating. It's a great shot. That was used quite a lot actually in sort of the trading cards and posters and stuff, and magazine clippings.
I just love the earnestness of it. This is great. And the rumbling, this is the sound design. Wide lens close to the actors.
Do you remember in Loaded Weapon 1 where they spoof this and Emilio Estevez comes up into this scene?
Oh really?
And he says War and Peace. It's like obviously this referencing the film. It's so bizarre.
Not familiar with that.
What?
This is lovely, isn't it?
This is one. It always used to get me a little bit upset as a kid.
It's a big voyage because they've just managed to get Raph back into this, but then you know, they also now have to get their master up. I mean, that comic relief, they managed to get this marshmallow physical gag in.
Yeah.
But
they both tie back because Donatello and Michelangelo are just obsessed with food,
but not cheapening the tone. Either.
No, of course not. Because they're still within character, you know.
Yeah. And you know, this is kind of set up at the beginning. You know, when they do the light meditation and the tequila song.
Oh yes.
Plays at the beginning. And now they're actually doing it. They're focusing.
Yeah,
they're learning the responsibility.
And do something where
this is great, isn't it? It's so good.
Well, you're probably unaware they couldn't actually do, you know. But it's a great scene because he says, "I love you all," and the music, you know, fits the mood so well. And Michelangelo just, you know, starts crying, you know.
This is beautiful.
It's quite effective optical, isn't it, as well? It's pretty good.
So this is one of those again in an earnest family film.
You've got a slight fancy moment.
Well, it's completely. It's genre. Yeah. This could be easily much easier. It'd be much easier to place for laughs. It'd be much easier to do this as a spoof of something. I mean, it is slight playing with pastiche of Far Eastern martial arts films.
Yeah.
And spiritualism, but you know, it's doing it so earnestly, and you're getting to believe in it, and there's a truth to it, and it's channeling truth. It'd be so much easier to do that as a send up, you know.
Oh yeah.
Winking at the camera, but they don't, and the payoff.
This is probably the best piece of music in the film, actually, for me.
No, there, really Michelangelo's tears go.
Yeah.
But they've all got varying degrees. They're not all bawling their eyes out. Some are sniffing.
Yeah.
Michelangelo's a bit
Michelangelo's like the
moved,
youngest, isn't he? I think
Yeah.
really. So he's.
but it's hitting home too.
Yeah.
It's wonderful how the film kind of breaks up in the middle to go to the farm.
The strange thing in Turtles 3, when you see all the turtles standing together, they all look like all the actors in the suit are all similar build. But in the moment you see all the turtles standing there going, we've got to go back home. And each one of them's got a different size. You know, one Raphael's a bit more chubby than one. You know, I think Donatello's a lot more taller.
I like the fact that they've got closer together as well. April and Casey.
I think Raphael's actually quite the tallest, actually.
The anticipation's building now because we know that the finale's on its way.
Doesn't it look like the Martha and what was it? Martha and Pa Kent, isn't it?
Oh right,
Yeah,
the
Jonathan,
truck,
Martha and Jonathan Kent's truck.
from Superman the movie.
Yeah.
How many times have we mentioned Superman? But again, look at the grime. You know, look at the heavily watered down. Now you've got the sewer, and it just doesn't look like it doesn't look
Look, use of
attractive.
purple there as well. It's like sort of, you know, varying degrees of different lighting.
I remember at the time when the TV show was at its height, and there was a thing in the UK about children going in who had been into sewers.
I was just thinking that, yeah.
Influenced by the turtles.
Well, there was reports like kids in America were going down sewers and, you know, either seriously hurting themselves or getting, like, you know.
What was happening in this country too?
Was
I
it?
think I remember seeing a report, I believe, but just the obsession of it, and it's so
Yeah.
clear when you watch the film that you'd never ever want to go down there,
No,
unless you were assisted by the turtles.
Don't shoot. I don't think it's loaded, kid.
Don't shoot!
Hey, where did he come from? Beats me. I ran away from
He's really he gives a really good performance, doesn't he? The chap playing Danny.
Yeah.
Please, don't call. Just
He's such an outcast. He's so pale.
Yeah, I know, he's been
And
down
he
there for
does
years.
so much with his eyes, so much truth to him.
You're a claustrophobic.
The claustrophobic line is wonderful.
he thinks he's calling him a homophobe or something, isn't he?
Is that you're afraid of a closed house?
But I love the fact that April has to translate that too. Again, it's the man-boy thing. She's a maternal figure to them all, but it's playing on. There's actually quite a lot, of, considerable amount of layers, given the.
Well, this time, because there's a lot more lighting now in the Turtles' home, because before it was actually quite mood lighting, and this one it's a lot more brighter.
But they're also too. They're playing with the fact that dramatically before it was a moment with Splinter talking.
Sure.
Whereas
Do you think maybe I could have won?
I guess it's been shaken up and the lampshades have been broken too.
Or Danny's gone in there and probably fiddled with it, sort of, because he's been down there for a while.
I had some pizza down here.
But it's it's dramatic license, and that's what good films do. They play around with the mood and create
Actually,
their
now
own
looking at it now, it seems more familiar to like the cartoon where you've got it seems a lot much more bigger scale than we saw earlier.
kind of. Although it was lit for the mood before.
Yeah, of course.
And things like that come and change depending on the scene, but generally you don't notice them. I love the fact that Casey Jones is sleeping by himself.
Yeah, I don't think I could fit in that vehicle. Too tall.
in the truck. But it's good because later on, of course,
He's gonna catch Danny leaving,
and he spots what's going on. It's helping the story, but it's also telling us about his character at the same time.
Yeah.
It's funny, but it's also going to help us progress with the story. It's very.
He's still using his
very
sort of
tight.
detective skills, essentially what Casey Jones is. He's sort of other side to him. The vigilante side.
Well, he's very much a drifter with no plan.
Yeah.
Whereas April is a complete opposite, being a career girl with everything.
As you were saying earlier about the whole family theme throughout the film, you can hear, all those thoughts in his head, like, all
stirring around.
Yeah.
It's kind of torn between the two.
Those silhouettes are huge in the UK. They're a lot smaller.
Yeah. But I guess too. I mean, I'm not actually sure how big a New York sewer lid is, but you know, you're trying to get all those bulky
And you're supposed to get turtles down there,
costumes
yeah.
And they refer to this later on as the East Laird Island, don't they? Which is a reference to Laird and Eastman, who created the Ninja Turtles.
Yes! Nice little bit of trivia, Tim. Well done.
This is great.
I like it. He puts his little headband back on, so it's probably like a guarantee entrance. You know, you've got to have one. What arcades have they got there? No, I don't recognise those. Street Fighter 2 wasn't out at that point. It's so funny that Turtles arcade in the background.
I just remember all of this pop culture. You know, the film was really on the pulse of sort of 1989, 1990. A lot of films feel like they come out a year after the pop culture. They're trying to catch
came
up.
Out, it nailed it right at the time. You know,
Yeah.
What was going on? What was popular?
It really had everything.
I have not seen you for days.
So expressive. Splinter animatronic, and I noticed too with the lighting, you know, the little glints that you get, like you get with cats, you know, in the eyes. I mean, there's a lot of cinematographers believe, you know, you see the soul of somebody when you light the eyes, when you get the little glint in the eye.
Oh,
and,
sure.
And no doubt, you know,
Steve Barron knew that.
the director and the cinematographer.
Yeah.
You know,
what did the cinematographer do on Alice Before Turtles or afterwards?
John Fenner was the cinematographer of Storyteller.
Oh right, okay. Is he?
He went on to do the Muppet Treasure Island and the Borrowers movie as well. And I think some other
He
stuff
didn't
with
work
Henson.
he didn't work on Coneheads with Steve Barron, did he?
No, I don't believe so. I
okay.
believe that was shot by somebody else. But that was I believe it was shot in LA.
Right.
It was a studio movie.
Right, yeah. Okay.
She persuaded Yoshi to be with me.
And again, we've had the lighting.
Do you think this is, you know, because obviously Jim Henson had passed away, I think before the film came out, wasn't it? I think, or didn't we just afterwards? Do you think it's some of the Jim Henson Company's best work? The Turtles world?
They've done so much good stuff that ranges so far. This we were talking before, you know, just ignoring this wonderful sequence here, flashback, where we've gone.
It's not played for laughs at all, you know.
Right.
It's kind of a little bit ludicrous in a way. But
And it's got jump cuts in it. You know, it looks rough, it looks rugged.
yeah.
You know, it looks visually unattractive deliberately to conjure up, you know, that feeling of an old. And you see that there, you just got the lighting cue coming up and down.
Yeah, and the lighting
sat
came up,
there, and
didn't
it's
it?
invisible. You never question
But
it.
before, earlier, it jumped straight to the Turtles without seeing the lighting change.
I believe there was one on Splinter just as they
Right.
as they move. But you know, these are just tricks. They're clever tricks. You know, you don't have to always be so literal. This is very theatrical. It's very stylized.
Yeah.
And this is the High Tech 3, who was Technotronic.
Hip House.
I believe it was a
wasn't it? Yeah.
Technotronic
Spin that wheel.
project. This song, and it had been released the previous year.
Well, this spin that wheel and sorry, Total Power both had music videos, didn't they?
Yeah. Well, there are two for Spin That Wheel because it was released before the film came out as well. But then it had a tie-in movie one where you had the Turtles at a multiplex watching the Ninja Turtles film on the big screen. When we do occasionally get these close-up shots, they're so effective because they're savoured, you know, right until the end. This is great, you know, with the rubbing the
He
claw
finds the
across
drawing
down.
in the back. doesn't
Well,
he?
you're anticipating. You
you
don't
don't know.
know.
You think he's. Don't know what
This
he's
could
up
be
to.
the next level of child abuse, you know, in the
Yeah.
in the film, and then actually it's this clue, and oh dear, they're alive. We can see that there's a paper trail,
They're back.
a literal paper trail to
Yeah.
you know, so effective.
That's really good, but the camera's going straight through those boxes.
Yeah. Slightly voyeuristic. But they do that a lot with Danny's character. That's sort of a choice they've made. They don't get him to say much, but he watches a lot.
Yeah.
He's almost like he's almost like the person we also see the film, you know, through the eyes of. Apart from April, he's kind of watching things from afar and...
Well, it's like children are when, you know, people are arguing. Children are always listening from afar, aren't they? You know.
And, you know, so much is done through his performance.
dun, dun, dun. I love this bit.
Some heavily claustrophobic sewer entrances. And
they sort of replicate that shot from the beginning, don't they?
this is the beginning of the end, really, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's all sort of smoke and mirrors thing. Yeah, you're right. It does. It's with the smoke. They've kind of
and it's also
saves you.
It was all a piece of piss for them because they're now back together. You know,
Yeah.
Raphael's just eating as well. It finishes off with eating an apple.
But it's that when they talk about smoke screens and with ninjas and fighting in the shadows, and we've seen
It's a
that.
sort of stereotypical thing what you expect from like ninjas and pop culture.
But it's done visually, and it's clear, and you get it. And this is where Splinter meets Casey Jones.
And he just says, I'm a friend. So it's like he knows he can trust him.
And there's trust. And these are complete strangers he's never met.
Yeah.
But it's, they've kind of created their own family away from Splinter, to help them kind of go.
What's that little kid gonna do? I love this bit because the stuntmen in the suits are just really what's the word? Energetic in these suits. I'm sure some of them passed out because of the heat wearing those outfits.
It's incredibly well choreographed. I remember reading that Steve Barron storyboarded, I think, all of the film because of. So they have to know for the animatronics people what the movements are and things, and they're pretty much in every scene.
It'd be great to see some of Steve Barron's storyboards.
So in these really wide-angle shots, close up to the actors. It really puts you in there, and it puts you in there especially with the physical movement, with the fighting.
It's good as well because you can see Casey Jones completely out of his depth and he's got no weapon.
Yeah. I believe he reaches for a golf club at this point. And this is kind of played for us. This is a bit it's heading to a slapstick because this is quite nasty and brutal, the fighting here. A lot of knocking about, and the actual physical stunt of the Shredder's foreman being hit and flying backwards. It's kind of it's an impossible move.
It's got a sound of a plane,
Yeah, but also too,
diving,
being hit in the chest. You wouldn't, there wouldn't be enough weight and momentum to get somebody to fly that far. But it still works,
of course. You still buy it. It's still,
and it's physical humour. It's a physical comedy, really. With the golf club.
It's keeping in tone with everything that's happened prior.
And it is, it's ridiculous.
This is all kind of, play for laughs as well, but not like just, making fun of the turtles.
But it's the truth. It's those characters we set up before who were playing games, who were watching that rabbit on television, who are having fun and indulging in leisure. We're now watching them.
It just shows
in action.
What a great adaptation it is. It doesn't, have the turtles being dark and brooding. It gives you exactly what you expect from the Ninja Turtles.
Yeah. Here's the mention of loyalty and family when Splinter speaks to the young men. And it's mention of family. We're a family, and they look disappointed, completely disappointed when this bubbles burst. And it's almost like Casey Jones becomes a father figure at this point too to these.
Yeah, because he's on a similar level in terms of them. I mean, he's all rough and scruffy and.
But he's human. He's also a generation above them too. Yeah. And they don't want to fight. They wanted to believe that this was kind of something. It's more than just a gang,
Yeah,
it's a family. I mean, some gangs are families, and that's an entirely different, I guess, a different debate. But this is more about young men, and arguably children, older children who rejecting their families.
Oh, that's classic Turtles, crushing people with their shells.
This is.
This bit in a minute blew my mind.
Did you see in the background? You see the truck the dump truck just pulled up earlier in the background.
Right,
which is ultimately
going to happen. Yeah, it's going to
get
defeat
rid of Shredder. But you actually see it enter the frame suddenly in the background. It's not. I mean, they didn't have to do that. Nobody's going to
no.
remember the geography, but just that little
Like subtle
detail.
things that Steve Barron's put in.
Where do you think you're going? I remember that line getting a big laugh.
This bit though blew my mind as a kid, with Michelangelo putting his head in his shower.
The trailer shot.
Yeah,
That one, yeah.
that was so good, man.
You never.
But in the
I love the way-
trailer, it had a different voice, didn't it? Because they hadn't voiced it right at the time.
I love the way it pulls away from them as well.
Mm.
It's so dynamic.
But it still has laughs going now with Donatello, like forgetting. He gets let's go up the ladder.
But the thing is, they establish that. I mean, you never see that happening with Raphael, and you never see that happening with Leonardo. Those kind of jokes.
No, they don't. They don't.
Look,
They
so-
keep it to Michelangelo and Donatello.
Because that's the truth of it. You've established that with the characters earlier. The choreography here is so much
Really
fun.
good. He cuts them up as well.
And I love the fact that just the effort's made to go in with the camera and to go around and it's not all shot from but afar with a dozen cameras. It's in there. It's choreographed. It's blocked.
And the introduction of Shredder is amazing.
This is great. Yeah, it's like something from
because he's been watching now. He's coming in to finish him off.
It's like something out of like a
End of level boss.
But it's shot like a like a razor commercial as well, isn't it?
Anybody have any idea about who or what this is? I don't know, but I'll bet I never asked.
And it's iconic too because this is the ultimate foe of we've seen
Oh, yeah,
all the
yeah.
cartoons and the comic books and they're facing off. And we really get to see his shins for the first time too, which were another integral part of the costume that we remember, that iconography that's been adapted for the big screen.
Oh, sure.
And he just
But it's
knocks
also
them off.
shows that even as a team they can't take on Shredder.
Yeah.
But they go one by one. I mean, they don't take them all at once. They don't sort of do like a bundle.
It's fascinating though. I just remember the cool kids at school always saying that Shredder was the inverted commas hardest, and Raphael was really the leader. And they kind of say that with this knowledge that
It's quite
they
interesting
had
'cause
above you.
The only one who actually does any damage to Shredder is Leonardo because he cuts
Right.
him on his arm. The only one to actually get through and do some pain to him.
See again, they mentioned the family too. Everybody needs a family.
Now, exactly what point did we lose control here? Maybe so that
It's good that Shredder's also playing by the rules in a way. He's not attacking them. He's letting them get a breather.
But it's kind of started off at the beginning with
this guy knows where Splinter.
the threat of Splinter dying and the Turtles being on their own against everyone, and by the end of it everyone's on their side. Everyone's become part of their family. They've integrated this massive network of people who all believe and trust them, and they're all watching it from afar
But also,
now.
yeah, because no one's really seen the Turtles yet, have they, at all? I mean, only a few people have.
But the loyalty to Shredder, it's Shredder versus the world now, really,
Yeah.
in some ways. Although we've still got these foot soldiers left over.
Leftovers.
This is great, this music.
God, I
There
fucking
is-
want this soundtrack. It's so good.
It does remind me so much of Black Rain. That kind of integration of
Hans
pop and
Zimmer's
kind of
Ridley Scott one. did it?
orchestral,
Yeah.
And of course, that dump truck is going to serve another purpose later on. He's really adept, really adept with the physical stuff and the comedy. There's never a point where you in the film with anyone who's doing anything physical where you're thinking, "Wow, they're out of their depth." I mean, Casey Jones isn't the most athletic guy in the world, but you believe everything that he does and he stands for. Using golf clubs and using baseball bats. You believe that within his knowledge and understanding of fighting, it's all credible. He's kind of within his boundaries, but you're never left thinking that's unconvincing or whatever.
It's a good way he makes the Turtles crack by, saying Splinter's dead. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He's broken them down.
And here, the ultimate raising the stakes, and that we've got Leonardo with a blade to his neck.
Yeah.
Is everything lost? And we haven't seen Splinter for a long time.
Yeah. But in the UK one, the whole sort of once he throws Shredder off the edge, he goes straight into the dump truck. But in the original cut, which the Americans got to enjoy, where Splinter's got Shredder holding on the edge of the building with the nunchucks, because nunchucks were cut again, and kind of doesn't make sense. It makes sense, but it's kind of just a bit rushed.
This is
Originally, in the UK one.
Yes,
I love this. I love the pace. Just as it's been intense, and now it's going to this slow moment. Slowly savoured moments where
the audience know, but Shredder just finally is like he's playing catch up to us.
Where this hard sensei is looking at this life-size version of a rat that bit him on a face years ago. And he's seriously taking on. It's ludicrous if you were to write it on paper, but it's handled just so well. And here's the true art of fighting craft. Well, I guess it's the nunchucks is the reason it got cut before.
Yeah, this whole scene was cut, But I had the trading cards with all the pictures on, and I was like, "Where's this scene?"
And the dishonour here, we were talking about honour here earlier. Here, there's this below the belt dishonouring where Shredder throws the knife at Splinter.
It's like a backstab, wolf.
But it blows up in his face because
Yeah.
But by having to catch it with his Splinter's reflexes, it means he has to let go of the nunchucks and sends Shredder to his death. In the truck that's been set up earlier.
But as we all know, he's not killed.
It's quite permanent, isn't it? Yeah.
Oh, that beautiful melody kicks in again.
So sweet. Now again, family. Family is resolved.
And Raphael's straight in there, hugging him.
Everyone needs a family. And now we're going to resolve all the other family situations. Police are parents to the city, which is its own family. And then we've got Charles and Danny, so now we've got that family.
That gets resolved now, doesn't it? He's...
Yeah. We're all a bit... we all realise...
Yeah, because Danny's realised he's being a complete arsehole to his dad, but he just likes to be called Dan and not Danny.
Is it? Is it...
No, he's showing the money he's stolen as well.
Yeah.
That's good.
He's learned. It's gone full circle.
And their chemistry works so well as well, doesn't it?
He learns why he needs a family. And what family is. I guess, what is family?
Well,
because there are so many different types of family. You've got this single parent dynamic here. Well, it's kind of, I guess, hinted at. And then, of course, you've got these guys too from the thing that they mentioned here about the East Leadman Island. There's almost kind of...
But the gang at the end, they're sort of... They realise, their father figures shouldn't rely on Shredder and Tetsu, but it's kind of...
Yeah, also April and Charles, I guess. She's been exiled from the News family too.
Yeah.
Which is a huge part of her life, and she's gone back and she's found herself at her house.
Yeah, he's giving her back a job and more money.
Yeah, but she's also found herself too. She's gone and found done a lot of soul searching at that farm, and
but she's starting to show more respect for her boss as well.
Yeah, and of course, Leadman Island mentioned there. So it's all these little stories of family that are being resolved. And now we've got the final.
You had to have the payoff though, with them them.
But it's been. You were saying before it was like something out of a sitcom.
Connection.
When they're at the house.
Yeah.
It's so domestic. All their scenes are totally sort of domestic.
Yeah.
And it's just building anticipation. This is so well done. Look how close. I love how close the camera is.
She is like, she's in control.
Oh, completely.
Yeah, it's great because he's the tough guy, but
he's a boy. He's a big, out of his depth. His bark's bigger than his bite. I love how close the camera is here when they move in together and go into shadow and kiss. Then you cut to this wonderful big
9.95. He says that's a song
on the soundtrack. I love this wide shot here, looking down where we just got him lifting April, and we just think, wow, everything's all. And this is a brilliant resolution scene.
It is because you haven't heard them say it. That their classic.
And it's all one shot nearly. There's one cutaway to Splinter.
This is just pure classic Turtles.
But you're not expecting it because you think, wow, it's all about them. They're resolved, and then punchline kind of comes in.
Oh my god, it's so good.
I love the way he said it so po-faced.
Music stops.
And then the camera lifts up into the air at the top. And then we cut to two more shots, isn't it?
Epic song. I love it. Absolutely love it.
It's a great cut to black.
Oh, Raphael's gone into the hug with Splinter again.
Yeah,
That's great.
which resolves the story with him being, I guess he's the main turtle who we look.
Who had the most conflict in the
Well, also
film.
the most emotion, I guess. He's the most
Yeah, he was
emotionally
emotional,
developed. Not because he is an emotional character, but because he's going through that big roller coaster. We see so much internally with Ralph. It's amazing that we're talking about this about people dressed up in turtle costumes, giving so much depth. But you got to remember, this resonates with us. We saw it 24 years ago for the first time when we were children.
Yeah.
And it makes a bit. We were told at the time. If you look at the reviews from the time, it's.
They were kind of mixed. I mean, a lot of critics were sort of just throwaway, sort of,
Well, it's often seen as a puerile cash in on a
film, yeah.
Yeah, well, it's a kids' film.
But
It's
I
cashing
think
into
some critics,
this.
Roger Ebert, understood it's that it's great for its audience.
Yeah, but it's very sort of patronising. For kids who want to buy toys, that you can take them along to this and it's harmless enough kind of thing. There's no,
Sure.
but it's a lot richer than that. There's a lot going on here. There's a story here. It's about something. It's about family, and it goes up again. It goes with that theme, and it's also quite tonally too. It goes into a dark side. It prepares you for adulthood. It's kind of like the other Jim Henson films, like I guess Labyrinth, and The Storyteller too. In that it's teaching you morals to be an adult
as well,
And it's the notion that you might have to grow up one day and be on your own, and
that's a
have
lot of Jim Henson stuff
and,
had was those themes of family and things like that,
and the idea of network. When you've moved away from childhood, and even when you become a parent, or you become a couple as a young adult, as young adults or adults, you still have to rely on a network. There's still a family. There's still a need for it. It's not something that's kind of uncool and oh god, parents get in the way and whatever. And it's not something to fear either. That progression, through life into different families. But yeah, I mean, amazing that it stimulates that kind of conversation, because these things, they resonated. This wasn't, when you saw this at the cinema, you didn't sit in silence watching it, kind of thinking, oh wow, this is just eye candy, I'm having her. I was on a roller coaster of emotions watching this for the first time. I'm sure you were too. I'm sure lots of the people listening to were as well.
I watched this film, constantly as a child, and it always stuck with me. I mean, it was when people sort of badmouth it in a way, I just feel so eager to defend it, because when you look back at it as an adult, you can see how sort of mature it was when it came out. It wasn't just a sort of cheap cash-in or a sort of just played down just because it's a kids movie. It really was for older audience, and I think when you're a kid you can get to appreciate it more and more as you get older, and that's what's made it sort of date really well. It doesn't feel at all dated. I mean, you get sort of fashion things and the style of music, but the music is kind of still very sort of
it's somewhat timeless, isn't it?
It is, yeah.
I mean, it is very dated in a great way, because it's very much a postcard. It's a postcard of 1989, 1990, and being young at that time and going to arcades, and going and seeing Pizza and Ninja Turtles, and I mean, we were talking before, in the UK, not in the US, in the UK, there were worries, broadcast on television about children going into sewers. Kind of the level of influence that this phenomenon.
I mean, I've never known any other sort of kids' toy to be that popular. I think in my youth, I mean, it was all about Ninja Turtles. It was just crazy. I mean, a couple of years later, maybe it might have been Thunderbirds was really big again, but Turtles was just like off the chart, for me.
Yeah. And what a great soundtrack too! That just completely, perfectly mirrored what people
it mirrors the film as well. It doesn't feel out of place.
But it mirrors exactly the kind of music that was being listened to by young people at the time.
Yeah. It doesn't feel like a movie that's kind of got a cheap sort of or crappy sort of pop song included on the end credits, where it had nothing to do with the film, or like the film had no pop music in it.
It's also got a very well worked out orchestral. Well, John Dupre's score is very worked out, and it's very nuanced in that it is this kind of orchestral, Far East hybrid in the vein of Black Rain in some ways, but it also has the light comedy of Fish Called Wanda, and it also channels, the energy of the show. But then you've also got the separate song soundtrack, which features a whole range of hip house artists. I think I can say that, hip house, with the rapping and the kind of lighthouse music, things like technotronic, you know,
that's
were
right.
massive at the time. It mirrors it wonderfully.
It's it's I've put, in terms of comic book movies, I think this is easily in the top 10 in terms of its quality. And if anyone out there hasn't seen it for a while, I'd definitely recommend you go revisit it. And hopefully we've provided some interesting trivia. And Tim, I think, has provided some great insightful comments throughout the commentary. Well, everyone, I hope you enjoyed it, and you'll see me again soon, or hear me again soon. Bye bye.
Bye.